Okay, you are live.
Okay, and we are at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and we're all in our places. So I'll call this meeting to order, the regular meeting of council for May 4, 2021, held as we meet tonight on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. I'll call the meeting order at 7 p.m. With approval of the agenda, and I'm just going to mention to council that item 7.1, we will be having an amended resolution. I won't put that in there right now, but we'll just deal with that when it comes up. And in the package, it's an extension to the existing resolution. So with that, would council care to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Thank you. And all in favor? Thank you very much, and welcome, Councillor Grenard. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. First items will be adoption of minutes. We have the special council minutes of April the 20th and the regular meeting of April the 20th. Take a resolution to cover both of those. Moved by Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig. Motion to adopt. All in favor of adoption of those minutes? Thank you. And the special council minutes of April 27. I'll take a motion to adopt. Councillor Kroll, thank you. Councillor Lumley, thank you. All in favor of adoption? Thank you very much. They're adopted. Any business arising from those minutes? Councillor Kroll. You're muted.
At our council meeting on the 20th, we had a form and character application for a garden suite, which, it had come before the design committee, it had gone through committee of the whole. And the whole garden suite thing, from my understanding, was to try and create a situation of infill and create more affordable housing or housing opportunities in the community. And I was very saddened to hear that this garden suite is now going to be operated as a STR. So I've had a brief conversation with some of staff to see going forward, when we come forward with our short-term rental bylaws, how we might control how garden suites end up, because the original intent of them and what they could potentially end up as is of some concern. So I just wanted to flag that.
Thank you, Councillor Kroll. Any other items, council agenda? Okay, moving on then, we'll go to inquiries. This is the first item of inquiries. These inquiries relate to items that are on this evening's agenda that anyone would like to bring to our attention. Corporate Officer, I'll turn that over to you.
I'll just invite anyone who wishes to say something to please raise their hand. And no one is raising their hand, Mayor Beamish.
Thank you very much. Committee reports. I'm just looking for delegations, but we have no delegations, so we'll go to 6, which is committee reports, and the motions coming out of the April 20th Committee of the Whole. And first of all, the recommendation that the Committee of the Whole meeting of April 20th be received. Councillor Kroll. Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor of receipt of the minutes? Thank you. Grants of assistance. There's a recommendation here. The grants of assistance program for round 1 be approved as follows. The Coast Recital Society, $250. Deer Crossing the Art Farm, Emergence Phase 4, $1,500. Deer Crossing the Art Farm, Imagination Network, Inventia, $1,500. Friends of Parkland Sunshine Coast Community Association, $950. Huckleberry Coast Child Care Society, Little Hands, $1,000. Sunshine Coast Community Foundation, a living wage for the Sunshine Coast, $2,000. Sunshine Coast Community Services Society, Arrowhead Clubhouse, $2,000. Sunshine Coast Community Services Society Parent and Tot Program, $2,000. Sunshine Coast Festival of Performing Arts, $900, and BC Salmonoid Enhancement Society, $2,000, for a total of $14,100, leaving us, I believe, 25 for 10,000, making that, yeah, $10,900 yet to be allocated under grants of assistance. And that will come in the second round, which is usually in September. So would somebody be prepared to move the recommendation that those grants of assistance be approved? Councillor Crowell, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Lumley, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. Those are approved. Opposed? Anybody? No, okay. Administration reports. Director of Planning. Committee of the whole meeting. There's a development variance. This is from May 4th. This is this afternoon's meeting. And the development variance for 520 Ave Road and recommendation for the May 4th, 2021 Committee of the whole meeting will be forwarded directly to the meeting May 4th and recommendation to follow. So have you seen that recommendation come forward yet, Corporate Officer?
Yes, the recommendation read as follows. That the planner's report titled Development Variance Permit 520 Abs Road be received, and that the neighbors be notified of the requested side setback variance at 520 Abs Road, DVP 2021-04.
Council recalls that it's a fairly fresh discussion. Is there any further discussion of it, or would somebody care to make the motion? Councillor Crowell, thank you. Councillor Radwick seconded. Further discussion, Council? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. That's approved. Administration reports, Director of Planning, UBCM report funding. And I'm going to let the Director of Planning speak to this, but I'm going to add that recommendation amendment right now for your benefit. And it is an add-on sentence that comes after after the word manual, procedures manual, and other development approvals efficiency projects to work towards regional consistencies. So the idea there is there's also a joint project being looked at the regional level on the planning side. So they're looking at doing some joint work. So I'm sure that the Director of Planning will enlarge on that in scope, and I'll turn over to her now to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report seeks an endorsement from Council to apply for a UBCM grant funding opportunity under the Local Government Development Approvals Program. So the program intends to support the implementation of best practices and to test innovative approaches to improve development approvals processes while meeting local government planning and policy objectives. So the application deadline is this Friday, May 7th. And there's $15 million in funding, and each local government can apply for up to $500,000 with 100% funded. So the town is seeking to apply for $220,000 under this grant for the following projects. So in the report, I list 4 projects. One is an update to the form and character development permit guidelines to distinguish major versus minor applications and delegate minor applications to staff to streamline the application review process. Another project is to prepare a parking strategy for Lower Gibsons. This has been on our work plan for a while, and one of the CAC funded projects that we were hoping to get money for. And this project is to reduce the number of development variance permit requests and relax parking requirements. And then another one is to update the subdivision bylaw to clarify and streamline review processes, particularly for infill development, and to update the staff development procedures manual to incorporate the restructured planning department and include working from home processes. So the latest addition that's added to this is, and other development approvals efficiency projects to work towards regional consistency. The idea there is to add some language so we can throw in some more projects. We're working with BSCRD is also applying for this grant, and so is the District of Sechelt. So if there's opportunities to align our development approvals processes so we can be efficient throughout the Sunshine Coast, and that's an opportunity there.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? The application? Councilor D'Andrade? You're muted, Councilor D'Andrade.
I find to me it's a little bit frustrated that we are applying for form and character development to streamline the process when we have had a lot of issues with the DPA 1 and 2. And the issue with the DPA 1 and 2 is not new. This council in particular dealt with a lot of problems regarding these two DPAs. Some members of council have, for over a year and a half, requested a review of both DPAs and update. It was actually a promise when the SCCA asked councilors about their environmental views, and they had a questionnaire. Actually, with the exception of Mayor Beamish, who said he would like to bring a tree by law, we all committed to review the environmental policies and tools to protect the environment. I actually copy all of them, and I just have, they might be still on the website, I don't know. But I have been quite frustrated because we have been talking about that. We have issues with the George before this council, during this council. We just have recent issues with Gospel Rock. There was a whole tree cut that happens because of DPA issues. And this issue is completely disregarded. And now we are updating to streamline foreign character that traditionally has been with council anyways, is a subjective permit. And, we represent the community. So we have a debate on the issues, we get views from the public. So it's just hard for me to vote in something and support something like that when we had made other priorities. So I would like to include in this project, if possible, and actually, but perhaps I would like actually to make this an amendment of DPA 1 and 2, the application of this grant. And with the parking strategy, I'm a little bit concerned that we have a parking strategy without talking about a transportation strategy, because the issues with parking in Lower Gibson is completely tied up with transportation. So I'm just like really frustrated in this regard. Why are we not focused on the issues that have brought this town to their knees and have caused problems for a decade? And we are just trying to streamline some process. And I don't recall in particular that council asked for like streamlining of DPA 5. Correct me if I'm wrong.
One thing we did not do, and it was on the agenda today to review the DPAs, and we did not do that. So there's no direction be given to staff as to how they would change, so that they would be then going forward to do a project without council direction. We did not get to discuss that today, so it will be on the next agenda.
Mayor Beamish, did we ask staff to prepare this grant?
No, this grant's based upon what
DPA, for the DPA 5?
Yeah. No.
Did we ask?
Coming forward with their best advice to council as to what's necessary.
What's necessary. So all the discussions that we have been having about DPA 1 and 2 are not necessarily, even though we all promise here that the environment was a priority.
We haven't finished that discussion, so we haven't given any direction to staff on that. Other comments, councilors? Mark, GAO?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Beamish. I respect what Councillor Nandra is saying. It's just that the grant criteria with UBCM is very specific on what projects are eligible and which are not. So perhaps the Director of Planning could expand on that, but I don't believe what you're speaking about would fit their criteria, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean it can't be in the work plan.
I can add to that.
Director of Planning?
So the criteria is very specific on improving development approvals processes and streamlining processes. So the discussion about changing our delegation authority bylaw to expand decisions for council would not be streamlining. That would take longer and it would cost more. So that wouldn't fall under the criteria. In terms of the OCP form and character update, that was part of the council's strategic plan to look at form and character. So we were looking at it through the lens of what is in council's strategic plan that we could apply for that would fall under the criteria of this grant application. So we did have a meeting with UBCM to talk about projects that could fall under this. And an update to the OCP, for example, did not fall under that. An update to the zoning bylaw did not fall under that. So we had to break it down into projects that would meet the eligibility criteria. And these were the projects that we came up with.
Councillor Ludwig?
I think I'm good now, to be honest. Director of Planning just explain what would qualify and what wouldn't, so I'll refrain for now.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, this is going to come back to council though anyway, right? I mean,
No, grant that this authorizes the grant to be submitted.
yeah, but I mean, they're going to help you with determining what you consider minor and major, right?
Yes, definitely.
So, I mean, I don't really. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, like I totally get it. Hopefully, like a minor form is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd be interesting to see what happens, what comes back, but I know it's going to come back to council. So, and I'm glad you didn't have that conversation today at the committee of the whole because I wasn't there. So,
right.
I'm looking forward to the DPA 1 and DPA 2. But I have to echo, it's in our strategic plan to look at OCP updates and stuff like that. So, if anything, we have, you know, not as much time as we used to have when we made the strategic plan, but we should definitely wrap our minds around what we think we're going to do about that too. But yeah, I'd look forward to hear what happens, what comes back from this for sure.
Okay. Councillor Dindrad?
I still fully don't understand why dealing with DPA 1 and 2, it's not streamlining development approval processes, if this is part of development approvals.
So we do have funding to update DPA number 1. So that's already on our work plan. And that's a full review of the geotechnical development permit area and an update for that. So when we spoke with UBCM, they said routine planning projects cannot be included in this grant application, and they consider DP updates to be routine. So they were looking at what applications cause a backlog at the town, where are the bottlenecks basically, and how can we improve those processes. And so when we talked about the form and character update, we specified breaking into minor and major major and minor development permits. Would that qualify? And they said yes. So that was going to be considered in the 2023 OCP update. So it's an opportunity to get 100% funding for a portion of that work. It would include council workshops and it would include consultation. So it's not necessarily a done deal, but to get the funding to do the work would offset some tax money. In terms of DPA 2, so the form and character, DPA 2 is the environmental, and the discussion around Gospel Rock and those decisions. that the direction that council's going in, from my understanding, is to potentially take over more decisions, which would not be streamlining the process at all. So it moves away from the criteria of the grant. So when we pitch a project, it has to meet the eligible funding criteria.
Well, that, to me, that was just a different way of saying that the form and character will be updated. It's just dividing minor and major. We could have done the same if we wanted, just to understand what will be a major project that would come to council, or minor DPA 1 projects that can go straight to staff, and that will be streamlining the same. What I see here in particular was priority, and that's my disappointment, because this was an election issue. The form and character has not been an election issue. The form and character, I understand that would speed up process, but frankly, coming to council, I think is important, is a community participate, that the community is vested interest, has vested interest in form and character, right? Actually there was another issue with form and character as well, that was about the fishing, the seaside village, that went on and on and on. So it's just like, I don't know why this is so important to not to bring this to council to save a month or a week, while other major issues that have been actually impacting this community to the very for a long timeline, why we are not moving forward. So to me, it's just a way that this was chosen, and it was just the wording, because we could have done exactly the same with DPA 2. And I think still we can talk about minor and major, do exactly the same. And I think this was way more important. I'm sorry. That's really what I believe. That has been an election issue, we all promised. And we're still close to our, 1.5 years, and our mandate is done and nothing happened.
Thank you, Councilor Dean. Councilor Ludwig?
Well, could we just throw in an addition to have the DPA 2 reviewed for consistency among other, I mean, we can apply up to 500,000. We know it's important to Councillor DeAndrade, and it's important to, members of our community. Just put it, why can't we just put it in to at least have a comparative analysis done of how DPA 2s are handled in other municipalities as a comparison to improve efficiency here? I don't know, I'm just saying, like, if we're getting money to do this, maybe we could.
We could probably, I'm trying to think about how this could fall under, and just through the regional comparison, DPA 1 and 2s are delegated, and my understanding is the direction is to change that. So, or at least there hasn't been a resolution to that effect, but that's been the conversation. So there might be a way to frame it so that it doesn't sound like that when we apply for the grant, so that it falls under the criteria. But
I mean, I think
it might fall under the amendment, actually. Already what we said in the amendment is and other development approvals, efficiency projects, basically. Sorry, I'm just going to pull it up again. What we said is, and other development approvals efficiency projects to work towards regional consistency. So we might be able to include that work under that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be maybe it wouldn't answer all of the concerns raised about the DPA 2, but it would give us a foundation of comparative analysis to help council decide whether or not we want to amend the delegation authority or not.
I guess my question is, I thought we were on the path of reviewing that ourselves. And how far are we kicking it down the road now?
That is true.
When do you actually see that you would actually get to this? Because we have it on our agenda. And now we're saying, but but let's not. Let's do it sometime in the future.
Yeah, good
And
point.
is the future the fall? Is the future next year? How long is this grant open for?
So the projects have to be completed in 2 years.
In 2
So
years.
that's how far we're kicking it down the line. There is a report, well, that's going to go on the next agenda for discussion about that.
Exactly. We already have it on our agenda to discuss. Why are we looking for another way of doing it? And that's it. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Kroll.
I'd like to move the recommendation as amended.
That's the amended recommendation. Yeah. Okay. Which just adds the words and other development approvals, efficiency projects to work towards regional consistency. And we need to receive the report as well. In your recommendation, you receive the report and move the recommendation as amended.
Yes.
Does somebody care to second that? Councillor Ludwig, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Diendraad.
I have difficult understanding how a parking strategy by itself without a transportation component could take us anywhere. So is there any word on that? Because I don't know how we are attracting more tourism. Actually, there's huge campaigns. There has been campaigns in the past and now more than ever. How are we going to deal with that without a transportation plan?
So the way we're applying for this is we're tying it to development pressures for the grant application. But when we're looking at a parking strategy, we're looking at what the current parking requirements are in Gibsons, where the transportation corridors are. We're probably looking at active transportation as well. And the idea around this grant was to address also what was a council priority, which was to get a parking strategy done for the Gibsons Landing area. So we would tie in as much, we would try and make it address more than just the development approvals process, but when we apply for the grant, we have to tie it to what the grant is asking for.
No, I understand. I understand the attempt of getting the fund, but to me, I still haven't had the understanding how can we solve parking issues without solving transportation? Because every major, for example, Metro Vancouver, the reason they could solve a lot of parking issues was because they have the SkyTrain and they have a lot of buses around, and we don't have that. We have been, I know this has been proposed 30 years ago, and we're still in ground zero for any public transportation. The SCRG said was going to take 6 years or more. So I'm just trying to understand.
Councillor Lumley.
I hear what Councillor DeAndre is saying, and I agree with her, but isn't this grant just specific to development, not transportation or tourism? Like, I mean, we'll have to attack that at some point, but like, we're just going off on tangents on this, like this grant application. Like, I mean, anyway, I think it's, the parking is related to development, right? And all these developments that are requiring variances, it's like, hey, how can we fix our parking so that every single time somebody wants to do something, they don't have to have a variance. We don't have to have public hearings. We don't have to do this and that and the other thing. I think, isn't that what this is about? Like, so, I mean, I think it's a great idea, right? Because, you know, we can't build any more surface parking down here. It's a joke. So yeah, we have to come up with a plan. And I can't wait to hear back to see what they say about this. But transportation, we can definitely attack at some point. But let's just stay on the development train as far as this goes.
Okay, we've been moved to Councillor Diendraad.
Is it about reducing parking? I just want to understand, because that's my understanding. If we are gonna, I understood, Councillor Lumley, what you I read the report, so I know where it's going. But if we are gonna to reduce parking, we have huge parking issues. And if we don't have transportation, what's the solution? What are we causing more problems? I'm just questioning.
The intention is to look at what would work for Gibson's Landing. So we do have businesses that want to expand their liquor licenses, that want to add seating, and it has impacts because it requires more parking for more tables. So that seems to be a common bottleneck. Or small lots in Gibsons that have multifamily OCP designations. When they want to upzone their property, they want to rezone, they're looking at parking reductions because in the landing, they can only go underground so far, or we're going to end up with surface parking all over Lower Gibsons. And that changes the character and the vision of the landing area. So the idea is to get a parking strategy to understand the overall concept, and hopefully with a bigger concept for a parking strategy, we would be able to streamline the processes and maybe not have to go for variances for projects or site-specific parking amendments for each rezoning we do.
Thank you.
So call the question, Mark.
Just one point, Mayor Beamish, just further to our conversation we had with the other local government jurisdictions, the CAOs and planners and board representatives from the other two local governments. There was an offer from the SCRD to draft a supporting letter for all three applications on joint letterhead, to be consistent with the addition to the resolution this evening, was to have consistencies for the developers and the planning community on the coast.
So should we make that part of the resolution, that they support the other projects moving forward?
I would leave that to your discretion, Your Worship, based on our conversation we had. That might be appropriate.
Part of the problem with these grant applications is they come in with very short timelines.
Mm.
When you get the notice of the grant application and the deadline is very quick. And that's what's happened in this case, sort of thing. So they're trying to come to council and say, what would you like to do? And all the things we can do. Then we'll go out and staff goes out and develops a grant application and comes back for approval. That there's just not the time in these processes. So in this particular case, it is seen that there could be an advantage to signing a letter of support for the other local government applications as well. And they signed a letter of support for our application. I believe it was a joint support, joint letter, wasn't it, with all three signatures on it?
That's correct, yes.
So it would be a council resolution to sign a letter of support in respect to planning grants for the Sunshine Coast. Councillor Ladwick?
Sorry, I'm just a little confused by this. Are they applying to have the same projects completed as we are? Like how do we support what they're doing when I don't even know what they're doing? I don't even know what they're applying for.
It's difficult, and they're not time for them to get that information to you either.
So I just gotta hope I like what they're proposing.
Part of it is the regional efficiencies in planning. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Councillor Kroll?
Well, my understanding, first of all, are we looking at another amendment or just?
Just an add to, or it could be a separate resolution.
And my understanding is that across the levels of government, we're looking to get some consistencies. So we're not all at 6s and 7s, correct?
Yeah, they won't be looking at
It's
parking.
not going to be item for item the same, but it'll just sort of level the playing field a bit.
Yeah, in some areas, that's right. And it's a regional planning as well. So yeah. So let's take this first. We have the resolution on the floor. So all in favor of the resolution on the floor? Okay. Opposed? Okay, one opposed. You want that recorded, Councilor Andrade? Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah. The second request was from the regional level of supporting the grant applications generally that the other local governments are putting in. And there will be a letter that, as I say, that the for signatures of all 3 local governments to support the applications for planning grants. Is council in favor of that? Councillor Crowell make the motion. Councillor Lumley seconded. Any further discussion on that? I won't sign anything that looks like an elephant when we're looking at horses. So, okay. All in favor? Oh, Rebecca?
I just want to be sure I've gotten the motion correct. And I believe the motion is that the mayor is authorized to sign letters of support for applications submitted by other municipalities in the SCRD. Did I get it right, or is it different than that?
I think it's a joint letter of support.
Right, letters of support.
Joint letters of support. Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Councilor D'Andrade opposed. Okay. Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, Director of Planning. Council reports. Councilors, opportunity to report. Who wants to go first? Councilor Crowell, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Last week I attended the Gibsons and District Fire Commission meeting, and a couple of issues came up it's part of its hinge to the regional growth strategy, which is yet another thing that's been on the table for years and hasn't really gotten too far. But with projected growth, we're possibly looking at an expansion of the local fire department. And, how much longer can it be a volunteer fire department? So it was suggested to the fire department and fire departments when they're preparing their budgets, that they sort of look at their budgets sort of as we've looked at the town's budget with respect to policing, and start putting something in their budget towards fire hall expansion or possibly a new fire hall. The existing fire hall is 38 years old. It needs a new roof. The last quote for a roof was over $300,000. So, do we want to put in that kind of money into a building that hasn't even been seismically upgraded? So that was one of the significant things that came out of the meeting. The other thing is, it's been announced sort of in social media and in the papers about the ban on burning. But one of the problems that's coming up are beach bonfires. Not so much a problem in Gibsons, but Area E, Area F, and the Checkwell Bandland are, people are going down there having fires, leaving them. We have a particularly awkward situation with the Gibsons Volunteer Fire Department. If there was a major fire on the Bandland, who's going to respond to it? So there's a number of issues. So I had a brief chat with our communications officer, and we're looking at trying to put out some sort of messaging to encourage people to be responsible. If you have a beach bonfire, make sure, ideally have it below the tide line. Make sure it's out. Take your garbage away. Ocean Beach Esplanade, the neighbors, the residents along there are starting to get are a little irate. They're putting up their own signage. Signage gets ripped down. Then they're confronting people who are ostensibly just going out for a good time, but they're not necessarily being totally respectful of the neighborhood they're doing it in. So Elizabeth has been very helpful in, we're looking at ways that we can sort of message this out. It's not such a big issue in Gibsons because we have a ban on burning, but people from Gibsons obviously are going out into the outlying areas for their bonfire enjoyment. So I just wanted to flag those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Crowell. Yeah. Other reports? Councilor Ladwig.
I attended the School Road Supportive Housing Project Community Advisory Committee meeting, I guess it was last week. And I just wanted to let folks know that I've brought up some of the concerns that we've heard from the community through our email. So the two concerns that I raised was parking of emergency vehicles. We received a letter about that at one time, with different vehicles kind of narrowing the road and taking up space. So Rain City had a good response. They said that they think that that's going to get better. The parking lot was still very much under construction, and a lot of the emergency respondents aren't as familiar with the building yet. And so they're just kind of pulling up and just parking wherever they can. But she, is going to talk to them and encourage them to pull into the parking lot when these things happen in the future. So, I thought that was a fair statement. It was still very much sort of under construction around that time. So, and then I brought up another issue about like what do residents do if they do have a concern from any kind of activity happening around, what should they do? And Rain City reassured me or reminded the committee to contact them if they have concerns. And so I did go on our website today just to make sure that Rain City's number and contact information is on there, and it is. So I think it's just important that we remind folks that they can always contact Rain City, and of course Rain City will take the appropriate actions. So I just wanted to let folks know that I am raising the issues that I'm hearing through our reading file.
Councillor Kroll?
Just further to what Councillor Ladwig was saying, the emergency response that I think attracted the most attention was when there were 2 ambulances and 4 fire department vehicles on scene, and it was their first response to the building. So everyone, they hadn't had a dress rehearsal. They, sort of dealt with it. As you said, there was still some restriction in access and where they could park. So it was addressed with the fire department, and they are also working with Rain City to make sure they have plans in place.
Yeah, good. Other reports? Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, I wanted to just say how disappointed I was with the reaction of the community with respect to the BC ferry trial. I think the ferry staff themselves were disheartened by the lack of respectful dialogue that our community had, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm not clear why people can't have an idea or have an opinion and not be able to have proper discourse or an intelligent discussion about it. Because I think, some of the comments that I'm just going to read a couple of things of the comments that the actual ferry people working on the ferries, the management, had to say. They said that our community has a lot of work to do to show they can be respectful to those who come forward with ideas. They actually said that their senior staff and frontline staff there were incidents from this community of reference to heritage, skin color, and sexuality. That's pretty disturbing. I spoke to, I was speaking to, and I know it's a lot of social media, and I know that there's a real trend towards this, but if anything, if our community could be better, then we should really get away from this. I spoke to Councillor Ladwig about it, and I had many instances of it myself, not being but just conversations with people. Obviously, my restaurant's right on the sea path, so there's hundreds of people walking by there every day. But I know that the world has kind of trended towards this kind of black and white way of thinking. And I know it's, you know, clearly we saw it, and it still goes on in the United States today with their government. So I just would like this community to kind of move away from that and just, you know, respect everybody and be able to converse or share ideas. And anyway, I know the trial was pulled, and BC Ferries were pretty disappointed with just what happened, but I was just wanted to voice my disappointment as well, as a representative of the community and obviously on council. I was disappointed. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Yeah. There is an article in the Coast Reporter tonight as well, reporting on that, but it is disappointed. I've always said, make it about the issue, not the person. And personal attacks have no place, in my view, on issues. And it always seems to degrade to that level when people get frustrated, and that's unfortunate. So, and we won't know if any of the elements of the BC Ferry was recommending would work, because they're not going to be tried this year. That's for sure. So it's to me too bad as well. So for my part, since our last meeting, participated in the Mayor's Forum. There's an afternoon event with the Lower Mainland RCMP and Sunshine Coast RCMP, hosted by mayors of Vancouver. And I think one thing that comes out of that, two things that come out of that. One is that every community is affected by the opioid crisis and mental health issues, and use of RCMP members to enforce mental health orders is a challenge. And there's going to be probably a joint submission made to the special committee on the Police Act review. We've made a submission ourselves. We were, interestingly enough, the only community on that forum out of all the Lower Mainland communities to have made a submission. And I mentioned that. I said that, but the uniqueness about that is that we are the only one on that forum that is policed provincially. I shouldn't say that. I think that one of the communities, Harrison, would be policed provincially as well, and out that way. But all the rest have municipal RCMP forces, and so they get policed in that manner. So that I also attended the Regional Hospital Board meeting and a full day with the SCRD on the 22nd. The 26th, the tour of Franklin Road affordable housing, and that was a great opportunity to see the 3 units that are there and look at the work that was done. Longman Construction did a great job in the development of those buildings. I would be happy to live in any one of them myself. On the 27th, there was a council workshop that we all attended, and then that was followed up. I had a meeting with Ministers Farnsworth and Osborne on the issue of the BC Ferries, the exclusion of Sunshine Coast from the order that for essential travel, and trying to encourage Minister Farnsworth to extend that order to the Sunshine Coast. It didn't happen, and as a result, I see the paper today reported that ferry travel last weekend was up 20% to the Sunshine Coast. So that we expressed it as the alternate to going to Vancouver Island for Lower Mainland people who are looking for a getaway, and that is proven to be true with the numbers that are coming here. We had a COVID update from BC Vancouver Coastal Health last Thursday, and just a lot of discussion from all of the communities. Lionsgate outbreak was mentioned in the hospital there. Communication issues around the vaccination opportunities. They promised to do better. Vaccine clinics. Supply is increasing. They mentioned the supply was doubling, so there's going to be more frequent clinics of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and the AstraZeneca vaccines are adding essential workers, are adding grocery store workers to the essential workers list. So that will help to protect our supply chain, and approval for ages 30 and above. Last week, on the day of the call, School District 46 members were getting vaccinated. Squamish had a concern about Vancouver residents coming up to Squamish for vaccinations. And we might even see that here if they start opening up here, that the clinics more. But people going up there and presenting themselves for vaccination in Squamish. I did ask about the idea of extended hours for clinics, because right now they do close at 5 p.m. And I said that is a barrier to a lot of people, working people and people with children. Mothers with children at home have no one to take care of the kids during the day. So they are looking at extending some of the vaccination clinics into the evening hours to give people a wider opportunity and choice as to when they would go for a clinic and get their appointments. So that's still a work in progress, and it will be, I'm sure, for many months to come here. So we'll see. There was a construction meeting on the 30th as well with the local governments getting together with the planners and CAOs talking about how to improve supports for the construction industry. They are hugely backlogged in projects and hugely backlogged in process, and looking at ways that process could be improved. And then finally, yesterday, there was a Water Supply Advisory Committee meeting and on the Sunshine Coast here, talking about primarily focusing on the referendum or the alternate approval process for meters and the public information around the metering issue going out there, because it's been tried before and they're going to try it again and see if they can't get a broader requirement for meters in the rural area and the district of Sechelt. So that's on the table now. So that work's being done. So there's almost a meeting every day of some sort. So I spend my time looking at this small screen. Get my eyes checked one day, I think. So carrying on from that, unless anybody else has anything to add to their reports, I appreciate that. We'll carry on then to council correspondence. And this is a recommendation that the reading files for the week of April 19 and 26 be received. Sorry, Councilor Ludwig. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's that way. I'm sorry, Gravity. I apologize. I missed you. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I put up my hand there kind of at the last minute. I just wanted to say that I think Evie was here last week, but I wanted to mention that the Sunshine Coast Youth Council is doing a presentation at the upcoming intergovernmental meeting, and we got onto the agenda. You probably got it sent to you, but that's very exciting because it is amazing how long it can take emailing back and forth with people trying to get things to happen, but I'm excited that we're going to be presenting. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, as it's very good. It'd be nice if at some point in time we could do a write-up or submission in the newspaper about the Youth Council and on that sort of thing. That'd be very good. And are you getting the emails that I send? I try to send emails through the Youth Councilors. Or do they come through to you?
Yes, I think some of them do. I definitely think that some of them don't, because I often, anyways, I'll touch base with you afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so we'll go on to correspondence. And first of all, a motion to receive the files for the week ending 19th and 26th. Motion received, Councilor Kroll, second by Councilor Andrade, all in favor of receipt. Okay, anything arising from any of those dates, those correspondence, Council like to bring to attention? Councilor Andrade.
Yes, there was just acknowledging the amount of correspondence regarding the wildlife attractant bylaw. I think most people receive very well. There's some concerns with birds, which is, yeah, that was my concern as well, because you have species that depend on feeding. So I hope we can find a common ground with the bylaw. And I'm glad that it's just first reading so we can get public input. I'm still not clear. What was the strategy to get public input? Are we doing some sort of a survey, or at this point?
I think the manager of communication manager is putting something together on that. And
No, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
And still receiving correspondence correspondence about the tree bylaw as well.
We are, yeah. And that was one question I had, and that is the, yeah, I don't want to miss that, the tree bylaw committee. And corporate officer, were we doing something about getting that tree bylaw committee advertised?
Yes, staff are working on terms of reference to bring back to council, because the terms of reference will inform what we put out to the community when we ask people if they would like to submit their names to sit on the committee. So that's where that's at right now.
Staff did have some minor amendments to the bylaw that they felt should be considered, that were not the bigger policy issues. And maybe we need to follow that up with the director of infrastructure, because I know there were some issues that they wanted to implement quickly, more quickly. So we take a look at that. No. Yeah. Okay, moving on then to bylaws. So we have several bylaws finishing off for our tax rates. This will get us meet the deadline of May the 15th to have everything passed. So I'll just go down through these. These are all for adoption. First one is the 2021 to 2025 financial plan bylaw 1289. Recommendation that bylaw be adopted. Councillor Lumley, Councillor Kroll, thank you. All in favor of adoption? Thank you. 2021 tax rate bylaw 1290. Recommendation be adopted. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Community Recreation Facilities Parcel Tax Bylaw 1291. Recommendation to be adopted. Councillor Dindrad, Councillor Kroll, all in favor? Thank you. Sewer Parcel Tax Bylaw 1292. All who moved by Councillor Dindrad, Councillor Lumley, all in favor? Thank you. Water Parcel Tax Bylaw 1293. Moved to be adopted. Councillor Dindrad, Councillor Kroll, all in favor? Thank you. Did I miss any? I think I got them all. Okay, thank you. No unfinished business, no new business, no notice of motions. We'll go to inquiries. Inquiries on any aspect of the we're doing. So who would like to come forward? Inquiries.
We've got someone raising their hand. Just one moment.
Yep.
Judith Bonkoff should be joining your meeting.
Thank you. Judith, you're still muted?
I'm unmuted.
Got you
Good.
now.
Is all good?
Yeah, welcome.
Don't have a picture, but anyway, that's fine. I'm good. I can put a video on here. Okay, here we are. Hi, everybody, Mayor, Council. Just a couple of questions regarding the streamlining of parking and the grant that you're applying for. Just some comments on the parking, and I'm not sure any kind of grant is going to help the parking down in Lower Gibsons. I think the study, I'm just not sure. I understand that study is going to help everybody streamline and make it quicker. We've already basically forgone all sorts of parking requirements that these buildings need already. So I'm not sure how much more you can streamline. And then the other thing is, I mean, even the George, maybe the study could look at the George, because the George project is taking 15 spots that are existing right now down there, and they're taking them away from the landing.
Is there a question, Judith?
No, I'm just wondering, I guess if the grant money could be used to a better purpose than studying the parking, and that doesn't have to be answered. The other question I have, and I have just one more if I can, and it's just regarding the ferry thing that everybody is talking about. Could I mean, you mentioned it in the meeting, so I'm just going to ask if council was involved in that vote to go ahead with the BC Ferries trial.
Yes, if you look at the minutes of our meeting agenda today, you'll see that, I'll just pull it up here as the date of the special council meeting, I believe April 27th. No, it must be the 20th. There's a, pardon me, well, yeah, it's the last item there, resolution 2021-184. Moved and seconded that the proposal of BC Ferries be supported for a trial project to provide travel certainty in 2021 on Route 3, and that the BC Ferries be directed to consider improvements to the 10-minute cutoff at Horseshoe Bay and increased parking at the Langdale Terminal utilized in the overflow parking area during the trial period. So that was the resolution the council passed on that issue.
Was that at a regular meeting?
Oh, that was an in-camera meeting that the BC Ferries had asked for.
Why would it be in camera?
It was their business. It was their business planning, and so they met with all three communities of Sunshine Coast in camera.
I think that might be part of the reason why you're feeling, this sort of pushback from the community. I didn't use any, I haven't used any abusive language or anything, all these things that we're being accused of. But I think that the communities felt shut out on this one. And I really do think there is a disconnect between you and us, as far as, for us, this ferry is our freedom. And I can't emphasize it enough, how shut out we feel when there's an in-camera meeting and we don't hear anything. And I think you've answered my questions.
There was a public meeting at the SCRD, and that was the fourth meeting that they held, and that was a public meeting at the SCRD. So the first three meetings were informative to the councils and the board, and the fourth meeting was a public meeting. And,
well,
and that was
I missed them all. I don't know how, but I missed them all, and I'm pretty aware. So that means most people missed them too. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Other inquiries?
Yes, I've moved Suzanne Singer over.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a sketchy connection, so I'm not going to do my video. I also wanted to ask a question about the agenda item for the funding proposal for updating various processes. I had a couple questions. The first one is about, I believe I heard the planner say that there is funding for a review of DPA 1. And I believe that I heard the mayor say that council is planning a review of DPA 2. So I would just like to have a little bit of clarity about what the plan is moving forward. This, as Councillor D'Andrade brought up, this has been a long conversation. I've also been interested in this conversation for some time. So is there money set aside for a review of DPAs 1 and 2? And is council planning to initiate such a process?
I think that if you look at the committee of the whole meeting today, there's a staff report dated May the 4th, and it was on DPA 1 and 2 and 9. And because the other business on the agenda, we didn't get to it. So that was the start of it. So it's been pushed over to the next committee of the whole. So we are in the process of undertaking that review. And so that's already in the plan. And that was already on the agenda today that didn't get addressed. So it's on the agenda for the 18th of May now. This grant, if it were to be approved, it probably wouldn't be approved till sometime in June. And it would have 2-year life to take priority over other things. So we are already in the process of looking at DPA 1, 2, and 9.
Okay, that's really great. I'm glad to hear that. I just had one other question, and it is about the parking issue too. I had property in the landing for a long time, and parking for my business was tricky. So it kind of looks like this whole streamlining piece is about
making it so that developers don't have to get variance permits in order to, have more seats or have more rooms for their development projects or their businesses. And I'm curious about cash in lieu of parking, Mayor Beamish. That it used to be that when you didn't have enough room for seats,
Yep.
or rooms, you had to pay the town $30,000 for a parking spot. And that money would then go in, I believe, to a reserve fund to either purchase more land to make parking or to, I don't know, maybe in this day and age, have e-charging stations or e-bike stands or something like that. So is that what we're looking at? Are we looking at forgiving the cash in lieu?
No, a parking reserve cannot be used to, parking cash in lieu cannot be used to build reserves. It is to support an existing facility. So that we do have that. We do have some parking facility up on, as you know, on School Road, but very limited. And I recall your business had parking issues at the time. I recall that too, as do many others. I actually hope we're going to look at the seasonal metering down there in Lower Gibson, so that workers aren't encouraged to park in front of their businesses and those things of that nature. So we'll see what comes out of a parking review. There's also any number of things can be looked at. Fresh eyes might come up with new ideas, and that's going to be important. There's been many tried over the years, including, as you may recall, parking using much of the road area below Holland Park for parking. So we'll see what new fresh eyes can come up with, but we need parking. Transportation is something that certainly we're talking about the regional district level on the buses. A circulation of bus dedicated to Gibsons. They'll get to that, but that's one of the things they've been talking about. So it's, I appreciate the opportunity to have another study and to have a good community look at it, because parking and development and business all need to coexist here.
Yeah, and one last thing, Mayor Beamish, thank you for that. Somebody brought it up earlier, and it was that the parking study or the traffic study that was done for the George all those years ago has some really good data in it, especially about maximization or not maximum, but just the capacity at the intersections in the town. It's with all of the approved development at this point, there's just some really good data I hope will be taken into consideration in that conversation as well. Thanks.
There'll be many parking studies, and I think that new study should look at them all and see what else can be added to it. Yeah. Thank you.
Real list too. Yeah. Thanks.
I'll just make one last call. If there's anyone who has questions, please raise your hand. I see no further hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you everybody who came tonight and participated. We are going to have a motion to close the meeting. We're talking tonight about, in accordance with section 91K and E of the Community Charter, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements of council considers that disclosure reasonably expected to harm the interest of the municipality, and negotiations related discussions respecting the proposed provision of the municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and in view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were public. Someone care to make that motion? Councillor Crowell, thank you. Councillor Ludwig, thank you. All in favor of adjourning to in camera? Thank you. Gravity will say goodnight to you. We will see you next week at the intergovernmental meeting. And we look forward to that. Look forward to your presentation. And again, thank you to everybody who came tonight and participated or just listened. That's important. And we'll take a break, get off YouTube, and come back to meet.